Hi, my name is Steve Larson, and this is the fifth session of 5 sessions that give you 5 principles on how to increase the influence in your young person's life in their journey from childhood to adulthood, specifically the ages of 10 to 18. This last one is one that is so difficult because our lives are so busy. I find that often in the home, when there are teenage young people, families don't enjoy dinner times together. They don't have much family time together. It seems like everybody has been scattered to the winds and they're all going their own ways, pursuing their lives. Tragically, what happens is at a time when your influence as parents needs to be at its greatest, it actually is dwindling simply because you're not having time together. The 5th principle is a very simple one to understand, but it is very hard to do unless you're extremely intentional about doing it. And that is to invest time in relationships with your young people, one at a time. My proposal is that once your young person hits puberty, that could be 9, 10, 11, 12, whenever that is, you make a commitment as mom and dad that between the two of you, once a month, you're going to get that young person alone outside of the home to spend time with them. Moms, I want you involved with this, but dads, at least 50% of the time of those one-on-one meetings, it needs to be you. Mom has done the lion's share of the work between 0 and 2, and probably more than half between 4 and 10. Now it's time for you to step up. And moms, I don't want you to interpret this that your importance lessens. It's just that dads, for you, this is a time for you to step up to the plate and become that major influence in the life of your son and or your daughter. So once a month, this is the challenge. What do you do with that time? Well, if you want, there's going to be a link that will send you to a download site where you can download an addendum of questions and areas for discussion with your young person. But part of the point of this time is just building a relationship. Find out what's going on in their life. I loved to ask questions of my kids. Who are you enjoying as friends right now? And what about them are you enjoying? Who do you hate? Who's the kid in class that drives you crazy? Now, I know parents, we're not supposed to talk about hating people, but the fact is there are people that drive us crazy, and it's cool for your kids to be able to talk to you about that. It'll kind of make them smile. Oh yeah, it's so-and-so. He is such a nerd and he drives me crazy and I can't stand him. And to be able to talk and even laugh about those kind of situations. As the relationship develops, we gradually get into deeper and deeper subjects. Like, for example, I'll ask my son or my daughter, I'll say, hey, do you realize you're only like 5 or 6 years away from being an adult, from being on your own? What kind of person do you want to be when you hit that milestone? Now be prepared, because the number one answer you'll get when you ask your young person that question is, I don't know. And you'll probably get 10 to 12 I don't knows on the journey to actually getting an answer. A couple of keys. Number 1, persistence. Keep on meeting, even though the first few meetings might be uncomfortable. Let me give you some suggestions about that meeting. Number 1, take them to a place that they love to go. If it's a McDonald's, if it's a Chick-fil-A, if it's a Starbucks, whatever it is, find out where they love to hang and take them there. And let them get what they want to get and let them enjoy the ambiance and the atmosphere, because it's going to create an openness. Have in your mind the kind of questions that you want to ask them. Also, have in your mind the things about your journey during that period of time that you'd like to share with them. So this is not just you interrogating your kid. This is about a two-way conversation where you're saying, when I was 14, I was so insecure, I didn't even want to go to parties because I felt like everybody was looking at me. And then when I turned 16, I realized I wasn't that important and nobody was paying any attention to me. And that was actually very freeing for me to realize, well, when my kids heard that, they realized, wow, Dad, and I'm a pastor, and so people have a view of me as being someone in authority and someone responsible. But for them to see that side of me that not many other people saw made them feel like they were in the inside. And my modeling openness and vulnerability, guess what it does for them? It invites them to open up. So it's very important for this to be a two-way street. By the way, these once-a-month meetings, never mix discipline with those meetings. You want your young people to look forward to that time with you, not to dread the fact that they're going to get chewed out for what they didn't do. So if you've got something of a negative nature that you need to say to them, don't say it at that meeting, say it at another time. And make that meeting a time for connection and relationship and sharing of love and sharing of intimacy and sharing of growth. Does that make sense? So as we move on, I want you to understand that these are going to be some of the most precious times you have with your son or your daughter. You're going to learn what they're afraid of. You're going to learn what they're excited about. You're going to learn how they failed. You're going to learn how they're succeeding. And again, when they share failure with them, that's not the time to jump on them. It's a time to identify with them, to say, I know how you feel. When I was your age, I went through a lot of the same stuff. And they feel like they have a partner. You're their partner in their journey towards adulthood. And that's a neat place to be. I want to show you this diagram, and you'll notice that there are two lines. One line that starts high and kind of curves down, and the other line that starts low and curves up. The upper line is the line of our control in our kids' lives. The bottom line is the line of their moving from immaturity to maturity, from being irresponsible to being a personal responsibility, to being a person with immature character to a person with mature, strong character, and to a person who ultimately is faithful and trustworthy. And so the talk that I had when my kids were 11 is my goal is to give you as much freedom and to exercise as little control in your life as I possibly can. And I want you to know when your kids hear that, their eyes light up, because what does every young emerging adult want? They want freedom. And so now you're saying, I'm your partner in helping you attain that freedom. How do you attain that freedom? By showing yourself responsible, by growing in character, by showing me that you're trustworthy. And as you grow in your trustworthiness and your responsibility and your faithfulness, I am going to weaken the control that I have in your life and give you more autonomy. You guys, this got to the point, and it was so exciting. By the time the kids were 16, they were making 90% of their own decisions in life, and I loved it. They didn't make the same decisions that I would make in every case, but they made good decisions. And here's the point of this. If until they're 18, you're making all of their decisions, the first time they're going to have a chance to test out their decision-making ability is when they're out of the home. And you won't have the chance to observe them and to see how you've done as a parent in bringing them to a place of maturity. So I wanted to move that up a couple of years so that I could give them 2 years of decision-making and I could observe how they did with that. I want you to know that my relationship with my kids when they were teenagers was so stress-free. It's because I didn't seek to control them. I sought to have influence in their lives. Let me give you a picture. Let's say you're an eagle mom and you're afraid of your child making a mistake. So you wrap your wings around them so that he can't even stretch his wings at all and exercise them. That eagle is going to have to do one of two things. Either he's going to become compliant and just quit fighting against you. If that's the case, when it's time for him to fly, his wings won't be developed. The other option is for that little eagle to rebel against his mom. And he'll have to fight and poke and and peck at her and do everything he can to gain a little bit of freedom and autonomy. And I see parents, in fact, we even have a name for them, helicopter parents, because they hover in their children's lives. And I've seen one of two things. Number one, either the young people rebel or they become compliant and they're emotionally crippled when they leave their home. I went to Biola College, and it was very interesting that the kids that were the wildest kids on campus, the ones who went out and got drunk every weekend, the ones who were partying with their friends, they were the ones who had had the strictest upbringing. And they had wanted to rebel, but they didn't have the power to rebel. So now when they're away from their parents, they have the freedom to rebel, and boy, do they exercise it. So my goal was always to give my kids as much autonomy as they could handle. And it was fun because when they would show that they weren't ready for it, I'd say, you know what, we're going to have to tighten down the freedom a little bit because you showed with your behavior that you're not ready to handle this level of freedom. But then I always gave them a path as to how they could earn their freedom back. So we were partners. We had a culture of fun in our household. And that's one of the things that you as parents can do, is to learn to have fun with your kids. I told some parents at a parenting seminar I did the other night, if you enjoy your young people and you're not afraid of them, you're going to have a great time helping them grow to adulthood. So I hope this has been helpful. If you haven't picked up the other 4 sessions, I want to encourage you to go back and listen to them. And actually, whether you agree with them or not, what I'd love to have you do is sit down with your spouse and say, what are we going to do to be intentional, godly parents to the young people that God has entrusted to us? Thanks for letting me speak into your lives, and I hope it's been a blessing to you.